Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the corruption trait Infinite Stars and why it might not necessarily be as good as you maybe think it is. Even though it sims really well in 1 and 2 target patchwork sims at times, there's a lot of things that need to happen for Infinite Stars, and it needs to be a certain specific fight type for it to really be a truly strong effect and for it to get that max value you see out of the sims that you're running for your character. If you're interested in acquiring any weak auras or add-ons you see in this video, I'll have a link to my Twitch at the bottom of the screen where I stream 5 to 6 days a week. Feel free to swing by. You can grab all the weak auras, profiles, and things for free there. So let's jump right into this and talk about why Infinite Stars might not necessarily be as good as you think it is. Infinite Stars is a trait that received a tremendous amount of hype heading in 8.3, and for good reason. In its initial form at rank 3, it accounted for roughly 30,000 DPS or so, depending on your class and initial sims. It did receive nerfs over the course of the next few weeks, but even post-nerf and in its current form, it's still the trait that essentially sims the highest when it comes to single target sims for most classes and specs. The thing with Infinite Stars, though, and why I, as well as others, refer to it as a trap at times, is due to the fact that single-target sims are extremely linear and often don't hold a lot of value when it comes to raid encounters, especially in Ny'alotha. Taking a look at Ny'alotha from a Warlock perspective, there are really only 2 or so fights this tier, mainly being Shadhar and Wrathion, that are or close to single-target encounters. I suppose you can make a case for Zanish as well as Mount, but even with them being mostly single target encounters, the issue is that in the end, they just truly aren't. There are adds on Mythic Zanish that require a hard priority DPS swap for progression, and the same can be said for other fights this tier like Vexiona, Il'gynoth, Drestigath, Hivemind, and honestly the list goes on. Infinite Stars gains most of its value when fights go on for a long period of time, allowing you to reach 10 stacks of the maximum buff for 250% bonus damage. While it's important to proc stars as early and as much as possible, the damage it deals really begins to hit hard when you reach max stacks. This is what makes the trait extremely strong in single target scenarios, and not nearly as strong in cleave based ones like Drestigath or Mythic Plus in general. When you have multiple targets that are alive for only a short period of time, stars becomes greatly devalued. Sure, a passive damage based proc is nice regardless, but a proc on a mob that lives for 15 seconds is not going to deal a large amount of damage, and once it dies, however many stacks of bonus damage you had on said mob are essentially lost. This is the reason why we normally only see Infinite Stars on certain fights, like single target ones, and not really Mythic Plus, as you just don't gain much value in hectic cleave ad based scenarios. Now there are certain caveats to those scenarios, such as fights like Mythic N'alotha. For those who are not familiar with the fight, N'alotha takes 99% reduced damage for the first third of the fight or so, but you're still able to attack/generate resources off of him. This indeed means that with the right RNG, you can stack Infinite Stars on N'alotha while he is essentially immune to damage, and you're dealing with phase 1, the tentacles and the psychics and things like that. Bosses like Il'gynoth, where you can stack stars on him early and have them persist for the entire fight, or even Vexiona, where phase 1 is heavy cleave, but from 40% to 0 is a single target burn, are also good examples of fights that there's a bit of hidden potential with Infinite Stars in a sense. Those are fights that you cannot really replicate in sims and have to sort of think for yourself on. It also depends greatly on your available corruption and what you're able to bring to the fight. The main thing that you need to take into consideration, though, on non-single target fights like the one we mentioned, where Infinite Stars is a bit more questionable, is are there other options available to me that bring more to the fight? Which brings us back to where we really started. Yes, the last 40% of Vexiona might be a one-target burn phase, but the adds in phase 1 do need to die quickly, which translates into more boss DPS when the raid can swap back faster as a whole. Star sims extremely well in one-target scenarios, but when you add in other mobs or council-based fights, for example, other effects like Void Ritual, Honed Bind, or even the passive bonus secondary effects like Masterful, Expedient, gain more value, while Stars begins to sort of plummet in a sense. I guess there's actually a pun in there, but on any fight that Warlocks can gain a high uptime on Flashpoint, Expedient gains a tremendous amount of value due to its direct interaction with haste that Flashpoint grants, while being a good corrupted effect for us even outside of those scenarios. In a very similar sense, it's also good for Affliction, just baseline with all the bonus haste we have as well, Cascading Calamity, things like that, and Demonology has explosive potential to go with it. It is worth mentioning, though, that there are some classes and specs like Havoc Demon Hunter or Affliction Warlock with Haunt/Unstable Affliction damage modifiers that gain more value from damage-based effects like Infinite Stars. But even with that being the case, there are still scenarios where IS is just not a great choice. I can certainly say that I'm not interested in playing Infinite Stars on Drestagath in the slightest. I don't really want to play Drestagath in the first place at this point, but Infinite Stars is not something that I want to play on Drestagath. There's a very, very short damage window you have on the boss when you pick up the orb every 2 minutes, and besides that, yes, you can sort of stack it on the boss, but even if there's a very short window for those effects to proc, and you're killing multiple tentacles around the room, essentially wasting the stacked buff. Even though I can maintain full dots on both Hive Mind bosses, other effects like Expedient, Hone Mind, and Gushing Wounds are still going to bring more value to the fight due to how they affect spread cleave based damage and not waste procs on small useless adds that I can swap to briefly. On the other hand, there are times where you might be a bit limited by your corruption, and there's not really a whole lot you can do there. In the end, IS is still RNG, so just pray for multiple procs early on the right target, and maybe it will carry you too to a semi-undeserved parse on a Ny'alotha boss fight. Thanks for watching, dudes. I hope this video gave you all a bit of a better understanding as to why I still think Infinite Stars is a strong trait overall on single target-esque fights, but not really as good as everybody thinks it is. A lot of people try and play it in these hectic ag cleave based fights like Drestagath or Il'gynoth or Carapace, Hive Mind, and you just lose, even in Mythic Plus, and you just lose so much raw value there due to the bonus effect not stacking on targets. It's just not a worthwhile trait. So, hope this video was helpful. Once again, if you guys want to follow me on stream, feel free to do so. There's a link at the bottom of the screen here somewhere. I stream 5 to 6 days a week on Twitch, so swing by if you have the time. All the week auras, profiles, add-ons you see here are also available on my Twitch for free. So, if you want to see more WoW content, be sure to smash the subscribe button. It helps out a lot. I will see you all again soon. Have a good one, boys. Peace.